more money in savings and a little bit retirement. It's really just a big focus that I think we all need to have right now on increasing what we have in a savings account or a rainy day fund or just something put aside, right? Super hard. I get that. I know that everything that you're buying costs more money, but we still need to be trying to make ends meet and have a little bit left over. So that's where I want us to go tonight, but I'm completely okay to go wherever your questions are. So if you have questions that are on topic or off topic, ask away, put them in the comments. And between myself or my husband, I will try to make sure that I get you an answer. Also want to mention that as we talk about saving money, I know it doesn't necessarily go hand in hand, but just so you're aware, this week we are starting, it's October, happy October, right? And in retail world, October is like the new November to them. So this week we have Target Deal Days that is starting on Thursday, gonna run through Saturday. And then we have Amazon running kind of their pre-Black Friday event. It's basically another set of Prime Days that is gonna start next Tuesday and run Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you weren't ready for the deals to start hitting you hard, sorry, they're coming. So just be ready for that. If you're wondering what those deals are gonna look like, quick look at that. It's really and truly view it as a pre-Black Friday. So look for a lot of small kitchen appliances, a lot of items that are gifting items. They're trying to get you to start shopping earlier and then continue shopping, right? That's the goal. So at the end of this Target Deal Days, get ready for basically daily deals and different weekly theme deals. They're just gonna keep it coming because that's how they work. But if you're wanting to knock out the rest of your Christmas shopping, or for some of you get started, for me, the rest of your Christmas shopping, this is a great weekend to do that. Think about how great December would be if you'd really already done all your Christmas shopping and we don't need to have a extra bit in the budget for December. You've already grabbed it all on sale. So maybe that can be your goal this week. So just so you know, so again, that starts October 6th through the 9th at Target. That is Thursday through Saturday. And then Amazon's is next Tuesday and Wednesday. Going to be really similar deals across the board there. Amazon's probably a little broader because it's Amazon. You got a lot more people that are selling there, and a lot of their third-party sellers do get in on the fun. That nobody wants to be left out. Walmart, again, has said that they're not going to participate. Walmart always participates, so get ready for them to also pull out deals and for Target to continue deals during Amazon's event. No one wants you to be on Amazon. They want you to be on their site. So that's how everybody plays when we see these events. Okay, so as we dive in, now that we've kind of covered the sale events really, really briefly, let's talk savings and putting more money in savings and retirement. Or just general rainy day savings. So first off, goals here, I would encourage you to start by just setting a number goal. A really simple number goal is, you know what? I want to try in the next year to get $1,000 in savings. I don't mean $1,000 in a cushion in your checking account. I mean that we're moving it to a separate account and you're going to put $1,000 in there. If you've already got $1,000 in there, then let's set a new goal. So you've got Dave Ramsey and all of the financial planners that are out there would say, aim for 6 months of your income in a rainy day fund. That's a lot of money for some folks. And that's really not like, I'm just going to whip that out. We're going to get that saved. Not necessarily going to happen like that, and doesn't necessarily need to be sitting in a savings account. There are other ways that you can put that money to use for you, even when the stock market has been doing absolutely horribly. You can still do that, so we're going to talk about that. But I do encourage you to continue past that $1,000 mark. Maybe your next goal is, I want to have my insurance deductible put in a savings account. So it's probably not $1,000. Ours is like $3,000 a person. So make your first goal that $1,000 mark, insurance deductible, like dream mark, right? So if something really bad happened to you, it doesn't have to go on a credit card. You have that money in the bank. That's the goal, right? Is to make it where we don't have something that can completely derail our finances. You may be sitting pretty with no debt right now, but if you have nothing in savings, it can't last forever. You are going to have a flat tire. You are going to need some kind of medical thing at some point, right? This is coming from the person who just had a huge back surgery. I don't like watching the bills come through, but we met that deductible. And if that hadn't been in savings, then that derails us. So that's where I don't want you to be, is, the family of 7 that's derailed because you didn't have that amount put aside. Now, there are other ways to do that too. So let's dive into vehicles to save in. First off, that easy 1,000, maybe that easy 2 or 3 for your just having, I've got my health insurance deductible, or even counting in what your deductible would be for your car or your house. I mean, how many folks watching in Florida, you guys are hitting that now, right? You've got to deal with your homeowner's deductible, and that isn't what you really want to be dealing with. You didn't ask for the hurricane to come. I get it, but we need to have that money in savings. So where I would encourage you to go with that is that you look at going online for these accounts and finding online savings accounts that are offering some high interest. There's a number of online savings accounts. One site that I like to use just to get an idea of rates, I don't necessarily click the button or create accounts necessarily through their pages. A lot of the things that you'll find there are really kind of like paid advertisements, but to come in and say, you know what, I want to open a savings account, just a general savings account, and I want to know what that rate is. You can do that. You can put in your zip code. You can say, no, you don't have 25,000. Maybe I've just got $1,000. Just show me what all my options are. If I put $1,000 in, guess what? You don't even have to have that right now. So Capital One, we have a Capital One online savings account currently offering 2.15% interest, 0 minimum balance required. That's pretty awesome. The reason I want you to look at an online savings account is that you set up the money to just go there every month, just set up a direct deposit basically from your bank to the Capital One account. And it's a tiny bit harder to get it out. So it's not I'm walking through the store and I want to buy that. It's going to take 2 to 3 days to transfer the money back from the Capital One account to your local account. And they do send you a card that you could use. Don't carry that puppy around. If anything, cut it up. I think ours is like locked in a lockbox somewhere. The goal is not to use that card, right? The goal is to put the money into this online account, make it slightly harder for you to use so that it really is there for emergency use only. And these accounts are perfect for that. So many of these are offering really significantly high interest rates compared to where they used to be a year and a half ago. This is all thanks to the Fed raising rates. We will see our savings rates do that. Okay, so some of you have asked recently, what about a money market? Wells Fargo right here is telling you why not to necessarily worry about that. Just a general savings account with a lot of these online lenders, you're going to find great rates. So SoFi is another one that's not pulling in their featured offer, but SoFi is offering, I think, a $200 sign-up fee right now when you open an account. They do want a direct deposit for that to qualify, but you're going to find a number of good rates just skimming or even doing your own Google search on that for savings accounts that really require almost nothing. This one at 2.8% requires $100 as your minimum balance. So a lot of good rates there. Your local bank, you may also have good rates at. I want your savings account. I encourage you anyway. I'm not the one there saving, you are. But I would encourage you to have your savings account somewhere other than your local bank, because it's really easy to log into your local bank and just move money from one account to another. That's not really what we want here. We want the added step that makes it where the money is tucked away, but not as easily accessible. If you want to have a savings account at your local bank and keep $100 there just as overdraft for your checking account, do that. It's a good idea. But we're talking your larger rainy day fund is in an online account with a card you're not carrying around, and it's just there. It's getting some interest, but it's nice and it's safe from you, because you're really the one that is the troublemaker when it comes to savings, right? We're the ones that are like, oh, we have a little money in the bank. I could get that right now. No, you don't. This is money that you need to almost pretend doesn't exist. It's there if something happens that we can't control, because everything bad that happens, we would never pick it. That's why it's there. Okay, so let me get to some questions. Make sure I'm not missing it. So any recommendations on a CD, and preferably an IRA CD? So Sheila, I will tell you personally, I'm not a huge fan of CDs. If you want to get into them, I would encourage you to only do it if you're seeing that the rates are significantly better than you could get in a savings account or a money market account. You're not actually going to see that on most of these. So to look at CD rates, for example, right now, still seeing for low percentages, I mean, they're at a 3%, where we could get some of those savings accounts for like 2.85%. So with a CD, the problem is that you're locking your money away. I cannot touch it. But if I need to touch it, that just took away the effects of a rainy day fund. Now, I know you're asking about an IRA CD. Honestly, if you're looking at putting money into a retirement account in a CD, I would encourage you to, you might as well just look at bonds for the same type of rate versus locking even your retirement savings into a CD. It's really not my favorite mechanism for tucking money away, unless you really want it locked away, but not any benefit to do that. The savings, the interest that you're earning is not a magical number to warrant not being able to touch your money for an entire year, or this Capital One at the top at 3.5% for 5 years for a whopping extra 0.25. The other thing to consider here too is where we are financially. Is all we're hearing is that the Fed is actually going to raise rates again, possibly a second time. So if you put money into a CD right now, that CD rate is only going to go up, but you're not locked in to that rate. You're locked in to the rate right now. So this really isn't an ideal time to do that purchase. You would be locking yourself into I guess a 3% rate right now, but not what you could be in when they bump rates again, probably in another month and a half. Now, something I mentioned maybe 6 months ago, and the rate is still really great, is to look into I-bonds. And I'm not normally a bond person, but I did mention this to you. I hope some of you guys took my advice because you're looking at a chunk of interest that is going to come due or has already come due. So I-bonds right now, you can purchase through the month of October. You are going to earn 9.62% to do this. So this is the initial interest rate of the new series I-bonds is 9.62%. You can buy those bonds through October 22. And then you basically will get your interest. You have to lock your money away in an I-bond for 12 months. So this is like a CD, but a CD at 9.62% is pretty awesome. This rate completely linked to basically the inflation rate that we're seeing. And it does adjust. So I am going to tell you, it's not always going to be that rate. Like, if you keep your money in it for 10 years, not going to necessarily be that rate. This is as high as we've ever seen I-bonds. every person in America can buy $10,000 worth of I bonds every year. That's a lot. That said, you could literally go on here and buy $50 worth of I bonds. You do not have to buy them in a $10,000 increment. You do not even have to buy them all at one time. So if you're curious, kind of zoomed in here to show you, but where you're going to go is literally treasurydirect.gov. You are buying them from the Treasury. There is no other way to buy these. So I had some of you guys ask me when I mentioned these, I guess the last time I mentioned them was possibly in April when their rate went even higher. You cannot buy these in a retirement fund because this is the only way to buy them. So like I can't open up my Schwab account and say I want to buy I bonds. I can buy other types of I bonds, I can buy other types of bonds, nowhere near this rate. But these guys, it's just with upfront cash. It's with you're gonna owe taxes on the interest that you earn. It's not any kind of special tax vehicle. It's just a really great rate to get an incredible amount back on the savings that you're putting in. So I would encourage you to do that. If you've got some money to put aside, even $100, remember this goes through December 31st, and then the start of the new year, you could start putting more money in. You can buy up to $10,000 per person per year. So you could have $10,000, your husband could have $10,000. That's a lot of money in I bonds. I'm not trying to make you think of it in that amount because I don't think any of us really could. Oh, let me just write you a check for that. No, that's not where we are. Be great, right? We're not. So I do want you to realize it can be in really small increments. So treasurydirect.gov, you're buying them directly from the Treasury, not through any other like third party. Can't do that, but you are going to get a really great rate. The rate will be recalculated on November 1st. It follows basically what the inflation rate is. So it's reset on November 1st. Then it will reset on May 1st. It didn't go in I would say it's not going to go down at all on November 1st. It potentially could go a lot higher, but you're not going to be at 2 or even 3% on that. It's a really good investment right now for an account that you are only having to lock away money for 12 months. You can keep it in there longer and you can keep earning on it, but 12 months is the minimum to be able to get out the most interest that you can on that investment. And yes, Cheryl, you can buy monthly up until your $10,000 limit. So, if you are trying to get that savings built up and you say, you know what, I can do $100 a month, I can do $150, you could do that. And literally, guys, just to go back and show you again what we're talking about, treasurydirect.gov, this is the best savings rates, hands down, that you are going to find anywhere. I mean, we're talking about a stock market right now that's down like 20% on the year. So you're definitely not going to go investments right now. This is no money lost. It's not going down, potentially going up when it gets reevaluated here because inflation isn't really changing. And that's what that number is based on. So really, really good place to stick some money right now. No, it's not retirement. No, it's not tax sheltered, just to kind of clear up those big questions. Okay. And LaDonna, you're saying, wondering if you need to move your money into actual cash instead of investing. So let's touch on that for a second. Again, guys, I'm not a financial planner. I'm not certified. I'm not an investor in the sense of like owning my own brokerage or anything like that. I do have my own stocks, as I hope some of you guys do too. So in the stock market, you're in your 40s, I'm in my 40s. You need to have a long game play here. If you were talking, hey, I'm in my late 60s, early 70s, hopefully you've already made some changes to make your accounts more kind of locked down. You're in the years that you're hoping to use them. In your 40s, you're still, in theory, a good 10 years out from needing it. And 10 years from now, the stock market, based on history, I can't see the future, will have fully corrected itself and you will be back in earnings. So what you really want to do with a long game plan in investments is honestly not make a lot of moves. What most folks will tell you that now is the time to put money into the stocks. And it just depends on your family. So my husband and I, we have very different views when it comes to investments. I am like, what risk? What are we talking about? And my husband is, if it's down, do not even talk about it. Don't tell me it's down. We're night and day different when it comes to the stock market. But we're both okay with, we're going to let it sit there. We're not going to talk about whether it's good or whether it's bad right now, knowing that in the long run, it is going to do better. We can even find a fun chart like stock market over the last 50 years. And I will show you this one if you want, kind of just pulling a historical chart. And any historical chart that you decide to Google is going to do the same. So this is, way back here. We get all the way back to, we've got a few different numbers, but this is 1982. We've got, stock market dips, stock market corrections, but you can see where things are. Are we ever going to get back to 1982? Hopefully not, right? This is way down based on where we are. But even where we dropped with COVID here, this is the COVID drop, we'd already fully recovered from the COVID drop. It's a really fast recovery. And even some really bad ones. This is, dips around past presidents and economic issues we've dealt with, 2008 recession, we've recovered from all of those. So if you pull your money out when it's down, really hard to recover from that. The only way that you're good is actually leaving it there because you still own the same number of shares. Your shares aren't worth as much, but you still own the same number of shares. So once that market starts to go back up, your money starts going back up with it, almost in what's going to feel like exponential growth. It's not necessarily that wonderful, but it's going to feel much better than having to, buy new at a higher price. Not what you want to do in moving out of investments to cash at this point, unless you are crazy risk averse. If this is keeping you up at night, bothering you considerably, then by all means, let's make some changes so that it isn't really, causing you some anxiety and some grief. But I would encourage you to keep your money where it is. If it was working for you before all of the issues of this past year, then Lord willing, it is going to kick back in and it's going to do great once we can kind of work through this and things can level back out. So I wouldn't move things around at this point. And that was LaDonna's question, but it may have been some others as well. Okay. And yes. And as you're saying, so technically it's actually now is when you want to buy. Now is not when I want to sell. It's when I want to buy. We want to buy low, sell high. So it's not the best time to move. But I understand not wanting to buy either. And I'm there. My husband and I both have very different views, but I think we're on the same page with, I don't really think that things are just going to start to magically go back up right now. I think we probably are going lower, and I'll just wait on that buying point. I want to see some forward progress before we start to put more money in the stock market. I would rather let's put it in I-bonds or let's put it in whatever we can monthly, even if it's a savings account at 2 or 3% interest. And Talsa, if you're wanting to be a first-time buyer, you're wanting to get into the stock market, the best place to begin is honestly grabbing the Schwab app, there's a number of the really big investment firms now that are completely free to trade. You can thank Robinhood for that. I'm not even opposed to the Robinhood app. I still have Robinhood and have some stocks that are in Robinhood as well. There are a lot of people who are opposed to Robinhood. So you can do some research and decide on where you want to be. Schwab is very, been around for who knows how many years. I want to say like 100 years. It's just one of those names in investing that a lot of folks trust. completely free to have an account, zero minimum balances for most of these big investment firms, and zero to trade for most stocks. So what I would recommend if you're wanting to get started, you've not ever been in the stock market before, is that you actually start with some funds. I wouldn't recommend that you start going for individual stocks. Individual stocks have a lot of risk behind them, definitely right now, and they're jumping all over the board. So I will show you one in particular, guys. So this is one, I remember sitting on a plane, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, next to a man who was investing, and we're both swapping tips, and I'm telling him about Robinhood, and I actually told him about this stock. And I said, I love Micron. I'm so excited that I bought Micron. And I was explaining to him my idea, or it wasn't my idea. It was what I had heard and listening to podcasts and getting started in stocks. Was, I can't afford Apple at the time. Apple was very expensive. Can't afford Apple. I want to buy a piece of what is inside the phone. And so Micron is a chip maker. And I did. I bought over 5 years ago for Micron. So buying over 5 years ago, Micron was like 41, 42. If we go back that far, they had some big days. They are not having big days. We're at 51 right now. We're still up from where I bought. But that's the problem with stocks, is that they are way more of a roller coaster than the stock market. Comparing this graph to the one that I just showed you, very different graphs. One is trending upwards, even with some dips, still trending upwards. Individual stocks don't always do that. They have a lot of fluctuation, and you need to be okay with that. And if this is just the start of your savings or your nest egg, this isn't where you want to put that money, right? If I have a huge need and I stuck it in individual stocks and they all tanked, I got nothing. So I really do want them in funds. It's safer. Now, funds still have rough moments too, but it's a little bit safer. With funds and investing, you do want to look at what kind of fees are they pulling out on a regular basis. So a lot of folks are recommending ETF funds right now. ETF funds are basically, they take a snapshot of maybe the NASDAQ or the S&P 500, and they compile all of those stocks in this fund, and you buy a share of the fund. So if the fund's going up, your share is going up. You're really buying individual shares of these companies, but little fractional shares as you put money in. But the reason people really love ETF funds, if that's where you want to start, is that they don't have any fees. They don't have a manager. It's just like a computer compiled them, basically. Now, there are pros and cons to them too. There are some tax implications, meaning if you had $1 million in them and the fund sells some shares, then you could actually end up with some capital gains from that, right? Now, I don't know if we're looking at investing $1 million. So for most of us, the tax implications on this are really not important, but they are there. So I'm just going to put that kind of in the back of your mind for when you become a multimillionaire. You may not want to be in ETF funds, but for the rest of us, we're all sitting pretty in funds that don't have a management fee or any sort of fee to buy or even to sell. You're just going to sell and get what it's worth and pay whatever capital gains because you sold, if that's what you wanted to do. Okay. Let me move through some other questions here. Wendy, awesome. I'm so excited to see that you took the advice and you grabbed those bonds. I hope a lot of you did. And check and make sure that you grabbed what you could. You still have time to get more before the end of the year. The same for you, Sheila. So Deborah, you work at a job that currently has a 401k benefit. I don't have to add to it. They set a small percentage aside. If or when I leave this job, how do I roll it over? So first off, let's just go to the big picture there. Anyone that works at an employer that offers a 401k and they put a percentage in for you, you need to put in what they will match up to. Now, beyond that, it's your own call whether or not you want to keep trying to max out your 401k or put any more in it. But you should at least be taking the free money that your employer is offering for you to put in there. Not to mention it's tax deferred. So I'm not going to pay tax on it at all this year. I'm going to pay tax on it when I retire and I take it out. But this year it's actually going to lower my personal tax requirement. For anybody that is borderline of qualifying for subsidies in the marketplace, your 401k, an IRA, those can all actually help. It's based on your adjusted gross income. So just something to consider. In terms of 401k, you should do it. Now, what do we do when we leave the job? It's actually crazy easy. You can literally walk into your local bank. I wouldn't recommend that one, but that's how it can be done for you at your local bank. Or the easiest one here, I would recommend, again, Schwab. This is where our retirement is. It's free. Open up any traditional IRA. I cannot roll my 401k into a Roth IRA, but I can always roll it into a traditional IRA. And that's what most people are going to do. When you retire, you do not want to keep your money in your employer's 401k. You know why? 401ks have crazy high management fees that are always passed down to the employees. So you should actually look at your yearly 401k management fees. They're really high because the employer, the business, can do that. So the business is allowed to take the expenses for managing a 401k, which are actually really expensive for a business to have a 401k. They can take that and they can basically send those expenses, those management fees, all of it individually down to at the employee level. So they're giving you your fair share, but just look at what the fees might be coming out on your yearly statements. Definitely pay attention to that. But the minute you leave a job, the minute you retire from a job, you need to take your 401k and roll it into an IRA, a traditional IRA. That's all you're allowed to do there. You could roll it into your next 401k if you want. Why? So that you can pay management fees on the money you earned at your last job, at your new job. So don't choose that option. Roll it into your own traditional IRA that has no management fees coming out of it. Now, I saw someone else ask a question about your financial advisor charges a percentage fee for my Roth IRA deposits. Is that normal? Is there a cheaper way to have a Roth IRA? So, Stacy, you can have a Roth IRA all by yourself. There are numerous ways that financial advisors charge for their services. So one is charging on deposits. One is charging on the value of the account quarterly. It's just maybe a flat 0.75 or 0.5% on whatever is in the account. The more that you have in the account, the rate can go down, but just ask them, because a lot of times that rate, it doesn't drop until you have a couple million in the account. So good luck. It's going to be a while. So financial advisors, what you really want to look for, we obviously want a financial advisor that's going to help us make money, right? That's why we are going to them and getting their advice for investments is hopefully they're helping you make more than you could make on your own, which in theory they are. I will mention a lot of the big guys like Schwab, they offer like a robo-advisor, which is a computer that can ask you a bunch of questions, ask when you're interested in retiring, and it makes suggestions for free. So that's one option, is that you actually just don't even use a financial advisor. You move your Roth IRAs if you need to out of their hands and into a free account. You can roll your IRAs anytime you'd like to a different account in a different system. But so we have flat fee advisors. I would encourage you to maybe look into that if you don't have a lot of money in your account. A basic low-level flat fee could be in your best interest. If you've got a lot of money in your account, it could also be in your best interest. Or an advisor that their fee is based on what you earned for the last quarter, not on what the account values are, the total account values, because then you're continuing to pay fees on something you paid fees on 6 months ago. And they're just constantly pulling from your total value. You want to pay based on how well they performed, right? In that sense, their fee, they're going to make more money when they do their job really, really well. So I would encourage you to actually talk to your financial advisor and say, hey, I'm actually not cool with these fees. So tell me what my options are with you. And please be aware that I am interviewing, I'm searching for other options because this is my retirement. I'm not really wanting to play with it. The market's down 20% and you taking a hunk every time I put some in, not loving. But I would figure out what that percentage is so you at least can compare apples to apples as you look at other financial advisors. Flat fee based on earnings, based on production, basically. How well is this performing? Those are what most people would say your goal is. I would say if you can also find a financial advisor that's definitely under 0.75%, 0.5% ideal if they're going to be off of the total value in the account. Okay. And my husband's saying, explain the two types of IRAs. So a traditional IRA, I am going to take the tax deduction this year. A Roth IRA, I'm actually going to just put money in it like a normal savings account, no tax deduction this year. But I'm paying taxes on it this year, but a Roth IRA, when I pull it out, will be tax-free. What I put in there and the earnings that it made, tax-free. So a Roth IRA, really, really great when you're in your 60s and you want all your money. You don't have to pay taxes on that money. A traditional IRA, I delayed paying the taxes. I got a tax break this year. So when I pull that money out in my 60s, I am going to owe taxes not only on the amount, basically on the whole amount that I take out. I never paid taxes on the amount that went in. So I'm going to now owe taxes on the original amount and on all the earnings. Now, the one thing to realize with IRAs is that I'm not necessarily going to have to deal with the capital gains on that side. So when an IRA comes out, it comes out as like, this is your earnings. It's like a W-2 versus you sold stocks. So if I just put this in an investment account, it's not in a retirement account, and I sell stocks, I am going to have to deal with capital gains tax. Not going to have to deal with that in either account. But the Roth IRA long-term is tax-free and is great. Okay, so there, with a traditional too, there is one thing to consider, and that is that as you're working, let's say you're working and you've got kids, but you're putting money aside. If I've got kids, I'm not making a lot in my 20s, my 30s, your tax bracket might be crazy low. So going ahead and paying taxes on those items now, and putting it in a Roth, probably in your best interest to go Roth when you're in a really low tax bracket. If you're in a really high tax bracket now, you're making a lot of money, then going traditional so that I can save the taxes now. Next, when I pull it out, in theory, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. I'm on a fixed income. So that's where, the pros and the cons of both kind of depends on what you're earning, what your tax brackets are across the board. Might be a little bit more than some of you were ready to handle there. Guys, there's one thing that we haven't hit on right now too, and that is a whole nother savings avenue, and that is based on the health insurance that you have. That is a health savings account, and that is really what I wanted to trigger here, because we're coming into the end of the year, but you still have 3 months ahead of you. So October is a really ideal time to go online and to make sure that you are where you want to be with your taxes. I actually did this on Saturday night for us and realized, we are not where we need to be. We need to adjust all of our withholding. It isn't very pretty, and that's why this is here. So I will have my husband stick this into the chat for you guys, but this is the IRS withholding estimator. All you're going to need is your most recent pay stub. So grab your most recent pay stub, and you're going to sit here. It literally took me 10 minutes on Saturday night. Now I have to, be fair. I have filled this out a lot in my lifetime, so I am well aware what the questions are asking, but just your pay stub, your husband's pay stub, any pay stubs that you have, if you have a couple jobs. you're going to put in what your income is, what you've been, had withheld. Yes, we have jobs. Yes, I have kids. I'm not 65, all these questions. And then you're going to start to enter what those are, how much has been withheld from those jobs. And in the end, it's going to spit out like, ooh, you haven't had enough withheld, or you've had way too much withheld. Here's what you could do to no longer have this really big refund coming to you in December. So maybe you're in a really good spot and you can actually completely alter your withholding for the rest of the year so that you have a little extra money to go ahead and put in savings. I don't need to be having the government put that in a savings account for me. Don't let them hold on to it. You don't get any interest. So play with this. Honestly, you should pull this up at least twice a year. You should start your year off playing with it, making sure you're looking good in January. You should go to it middle of the year. If you didn't remember middle of the year, October is a good time. We still have 3 months to fix things. So if things are really, really off for you, it's not as scary as come next April and they tell you you didn't pay $4,000 in taxes. Much easier to start to make some adjustments. Maybe you're so far behind you can't fix it all, but you've at least got a heads up. But what you do have a chance to fix are some tax savings options. So putting money in a traditional IRA, it changes your adjusted gross income. It reduces your taxes. Putting money in an HSA reduces your taxes. You still have time to fund those now. So an HSA, I have to fund this year. I have to fund it before December 31st. An IRA, I actually can fund this year's IRA all the way until I file my taxes in April. So you may not be fully ready to fully fund this year's IRA at the $6,000 contribution limit. That's the max that you can put in. But you could get in some and you could keep putting in money. That's all lowering what your tax requirement is going to be in the end because you just lowered your whole income by $6,000. So an HSA, just to hit on that one, I mentioned it, but I didn't tell you what it was. It is fully linked to what your health account, like your health insurance is. So if you have a high deductible health insurance plan, the easiest way usually to tell you whether or not you have one of those is if you pay a copay or not. So if you pay a copay to see a doctor, probably don't have a high deductible plan. So we have a high deductible plan, meaning our insurance literally pays nothing until we have met our deductible. So you need to get an MRI. Well, that's going to be $979. You can see what our year has looked like. But you can put all of that money in a health savings account. So a health savings account is actually pretty sweet. The money that goes in is tax-free. All comes off and adjusts your adjusted gross income, makes you make even a little bit less. And all the earnings that an HSA has come out tax-free. So if you don't use it this year, you don't lose it. It's not like flexible spending. A health savings account you can keep in there forever. The only requirement to a health savings account is that the money that comes out must be used for health care. It can actually be used for long-term care. It can be used for all sorts of things. Even some like over-the-counter type things as well. So it's not just for doctor's appointment visits, and it is for as long as you want to keep the money there. So pretty sweet, and it is a method that a lot of folks actually are using to save for retirement, because how much of your retirement is going to be health related? This is just part of getting old, right? I mean, you hit 30 and you wake up and your neck hurts because you slept funny. So imagine what that's going to be like when you're 70, right? So you can leave this money in your HSA forever, assuming you didn't have to touch it to pay your deductible. And then all the earnings that it's getting, all tax-free as well, which is actually pretty amazing. There's no other retirement vehicle that has tax-free going in and tax-free coming out. So if you have a high deductible plan, you should have a health savings account. There's no reason to not have one. It is only beneficial for you. There are accounts that allow you to also invest those funds. You have to keep $2,000 in cash, but when you have above $2,000 in your HSA account, you are allowed to put the rest in investments. So one that we use, because it's who my husband's employer uses, and we've actually used them in the past too, is healthequity.com. So I will type that one in for you guys too, but healthequity.com, according to their website, they are the number one health savings account administrator in the country. But they do allow you to put your investments beyond that $2,000 limit put your money, into investments. So then hopefully, right, the stock market's going to go back up and you actually are going to have some pretty good earnings on this account, completely tax-free forever. Two things I want to hit on as we talk about HSAs and we talk about IRAs. The contributions for this year, $6,000 in an IRA. If you're over the age of 50, that jumps. There are catch-up limits that are greater if you're over the age of 50. So just Google 2022 IRA contributions. So $6,000 for all of us that are under 50. An HSA is $7,200 for a family. If you're single, is $3,600. But those rates are actually going to change. So the IRS has already bumped those rates for 2023, even your 401k rates. If you're maxing out your 401k, which would be a lot of money, the 401k rates this year are $20,500, and next year $22,000. That's a huge jump. HSA jumps between this year and next year. They're saying it's not official on this one where the IRS is going to go, but a lot of folks are saying it's going to jump upwards of possibly $500 on that. So going from $7,200 to $7,700. The IRS has not fully released what those 2023 contributions will be because they are adjusting them for inflation. So kind of fun. And if you're used to one set number, it could be a little bit more next year and a little bit more that you're getting to put in savings. Hopefully, you've been able to grab that money and tuck it aside. So a few things there. One other question that sometimes I get when we talk retirement, can I have a 401k and an IRA? Yes, you can. Now there are limits based on your income level. So if you make over a certain amount, you may end up kind of being above that limit. But for most of us, you are not going to be there. And you can have a 401k and a Roth IRA at the same time. Not always a 401k and a traditional IRA, but a 401k and a Roth IRA you could do. Remember, the Roth IRA has no tax benefits this year. It has tax benefits long-term in the future. So if you had a lot of money, or maybe you just wanted to contribute to your 401k to get your employer match and no more, then you actually may still be eligible to also have a traditional IRA as well. Put the rest of it in the IRA so that you're paying less fees on that versus sticking it in the 401k and paying higher fees through your employer. Okay. Right. So Wendy, if you are paying a copay with your health insurance company, so if I want to go see the doctor, it's $20, you do not have a high deductible plan and you would not be able to put money into an HSA. So the only folks that can put money into an HSA are the people that have a high deductible plan. The perks for that being that the high deductible plan is typically cheaper per month to have. And so in the end, you're saving money on your monthly insurance because potentially you're out of pocket a chunk if you needed it. But you can put all of that money in that health savings account. So a few things that you can also find is some employers will actually put some money in an HSA for you. So they will say, if you choose this high deductible plan, not only is it a little bit cheaper for you every single month, but we will fund your HSA this set amount. And you can only have to handle, if you wanted to max it out, like this year, the limit is $7,200. Let's say your boss put in $1,000, then you can put in $6,200, but that's still $1,000 you didn't have to put aside. Pretty sweet. So some extra perks there for potentially choosing that high deductible plan, obviously based on who your employer is. And I know, Wendy, you say you're a teacher, so that perk probably not there. I wish it was, but just for some other folks to know that it might be something to look for. Oh, and Karen, the IRA contribution change. So the IRA contribution change is going from $20,500 to $22,000 for 2023. So that's an increase of $1,500 that you can put in your 401k plan. And that is still a predicted number, but that's got a lot of folks that are saying that it is a definite. So, just to give you all the options that you could for putting a lot of money in, planning for next year. You could make that a huge goal, right? So Tasha, question about HSAs. If we have the government health insurance that does not cover alternative medicine such as neuropath chiropractic, can we have an HSA? Yeah, so if you are on, when you say government, if we're on, like you went through the marketplace and you got insurance just with a subsidy through the marketplace, and you still have a high deductible plan, you are 100% eligible for an HSA plan. If you are on Medicare or Medicaid, I do not think that those are going to qualify. Neither of those are considered high deductible plans because they're really going to be the ones that pay a chunk for you. But if you're through the marketplace, like you went to the healthcare marketplace and you got your insurance, even if you have a subsidy, so for a while, that's where our family got its insurance with a subsidy. We still chose the high deductible plan so that we could use an HSA. I am a huge proponent of the high deductible plan, even on years where I have fully met my deductible. Believe me, I'm now to the point that I'm like, what else can we get done before December, right? That's the perk sometimes of a high deductible plan. But you just get used to it. But we don't usually max out our deductible most years. We'll go 4 or 5 years with nothing, right? This is life. And then you just have a really bad year. But in the end, it's still always a much better savings for our family. Okay, so you mean that with the Army, you have a plan, not a high deductible for traditional medicine, but everything else. So everything else is completely out of pocket. I'm not sure that you would be eligible, but you can always go to Health Equity, a number of the HSA sites, and plug in what your insurance is, and they will quickly tell you whether you are eligible or not. And you can even chat with them. A lot of them have online chat during the day where they will walk you through. You do not want to set one up and just think, well, it'll all work out in the end, because there's actually some really high fees if you do, and the taxes, and when I say fees, really high taxes if you set up an HSA and you weren't eligible or you put too much money in it. Not a pretty tax that's due if you put in more than the yearly contribution. So don't do that for anyone. But they will walk you through and see if you're eligible. So it doesn't hurt to definitely check in and see, can I get one of these accounts? Because they're pretty great to have. And definitely for anyone that already has a high deductible plan, for sure, making sure that you're taking advantage of it. That's half the perk. So Lynn, happy birthday. Happy 65th birthday to you. She's starting Medicare this month. Can I open up a health savings account? So I think I kind of already hit on this one. I am not an investment advisor. I am 99% sure it's not eligible for an HSA on your plan, your Part B, your Part C, your Part D. It would be great if you could, because all of those start to add up. But because Medicare is basically your hospital insurance, they are going to view that as being fully covered. You can still do some digging. I'll do some digging too and find out the answer for you, Lynn. And I can try to send you, a Facebook message, making sure that a YouTube message. I see you're on the YouTube side. I can try to, maybe even just put a comment under this video later after I go digging. I just want to make sure that I don't know the exact answer to that. So I'll try to find it out, but I would probably go digging as well, yourself, and see. Just 99% sure it's not going to qualify. Okay, so some things across the board to kind of recap here. I encourage everyone to get an online savings account, first off, for just our rainy day fund. I don't want you even sticking that in I bonds. So we're talking I bonds, and I'll show it to you again for anyone that joined in late. We need some in cash, guys. And I bonds, which are amazing, and everybody needs to buy them as much as you can afford. You still can't touch for 12 months. So it's like a CD. Don't go buy CDs. Not a good buy. But put some money that you can touch in an online savings account. So it's slightly harder to touch, right? It's there for that rainy day cause. Then I would say right now, any extra money that you have, I would encourage you to go to Treasury Direct, which we stuck in the comments already. So, and I'll pull it back up here. So go to Treasury Direct. That's the only place to purchase I bonds from, and purchase I bonds. And you can purchase them through the end of October. Every person, if you click on individuals, every person can purchase up to $10,000 worth of I bonds. So you're going to come in here, you're going to click on individuals, you're going to open an account. It's over here on the sidebar. And you're going to invest in the account. Now, through October, the current rate is 9.62%, which is crazy. That percentage will be recalculated November 1st, and it will stay the same. Once it's recalculated, it's pretty much going to stay right about where it is because it's based on the current inflation rate. And you can buy 10,000 this year, you can buy 10,000 more. So one other thing here, let's just say you really screwed up on your withholding and you're going to get a great refund back. A little inside tip, because some of you have taken my I-bond tips. So if you've already got some I-bonds, you can actually get 20,000 a year through, it's not a loophole, but it's like an option. So when you do your taxes next year and you get a refund back, they're going to give you the option to get your refund back in bonds. You may have seen this before and thought, why in the world would I get my refund back in bonds? Bonds are a horrible investment. Well, you can select I bonds, and you can actually get up to $10,000 worth of I bonds from your tax return, and then still get another $10,000 in I bonds buying them directly. Now, that's a lot of money. And I don't think that you have $20,000 sitting around. But if you were sitting there and pondering, maybe I've got to take a required distribution from a retirement account and I've got this cash and I don't need it, well, there you go. That could be one way to deal with it. Getting it back in a tax refund and having that extra little bit that you could put into those I bonds. Will they always be this crazy investment? Probably not. Their normal rate outside of this period of really high inflation is usually in the 3% range, sometimes even lower than that. But right now it is kind of just a crazy 9.62%, totally based on the current inflation rate. So I wouldn't miss it while you can. So you can grab them. The new rate will come out on November 1st, and then you'll have that rate for the next 6 months. So I do not work for the Treasury Department, I promise. It's just a really safe way to get really great rates on an account. Wendy, is an Acorn account something to look into? Yes, it is a great way to get into investments just by putting in a little tiny bit at a time into an Acorn account. I have an Acorn account. Little tiny bit goes in there every month, letting it round up from what all the purchases you're making. That all adds up. And with Acorn accounts, it does go into investments. So right now, there's a chance that it could go down. My Acorn account is kind of at over the last 3 years, it is at a steady even. But if you had invested in an Acorn account about 6 months ago to 9 months ago, you would actually see that you'd potentially lost money. So do realize it is an investment account, not necessarily a savings account. But it's still a great way to get into investments because you don't have to know anything. You don't even pick what you invest in. You just tell them what your risk level is, like, hey, I'd prefer to not lose money, or hey, bet the house, however you feel, and they invest smartly for you. So it's a really good way to dip your toe into investments watch how they're doing without even needing to know a thing about other companies that are out there. So I do recommend Acorns, just that there's a little bit of risk behind that right now versus the I-bonds that I was just telling you about, which is just 9.62% interest back, and nothing is giving you that anywhere else. So I guess if you were trying to decide where to put your money, I would say get your rainy day fund started in a local money market account, just online savings account. And then maybe start to tuck any extra money. You only have to keep them there for a year. When it's over, if the rate comes down in a year, then we can all sing and dance, because hopefully that means inflation came down, right? And then you could take it and you could put it into investments. But that would be the safer, definitely earning rate versus sticking them into investments right now and potentially not earning much at all. So Kathy, you're almost 64. Is a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA best? And what is the best way to open one? I have a 401k money from previous employers. So you need to withdraw. So the only thing you can move a 401k to is a traditional IRA. If you moved it or tried to do a Roth conversion, you would owe the tax. Okay, guys, let's see if the internet will hold for me to finish that question. Sorry about that. We were doing so good. So what I was saying, we got to go traditional. You don't want to lose, you don't have to deal with taxes on the 401k. The only option to roll a 401k into is a traditional. If you're looking at opening a new IRA, let's say you're quitting that job, but you're not retiring. I want to move on to a new job. I want to keep saving. I don't know. Either one, you're going to deal with the money's going to have to be in that account for a certain number of years before you can withdraw. So I'd probably say that you just go ahead and just invest in the traditional IRA that you're going to open to roll your 401k into, and just keep putting money into that traditional with a new employer or with yourself, really, as you have a new job somewhere. That's probably going to be your best tax option for you at the age of 64. Taking a Roth IRA so that you're not going to pay tax on the earnings or the investment, but you're going to pull it out in less than 10 years potentially. I don't know that you're going to end up seeing really any major tax benefit there. You can definitely ask a financial advisor what their take would be. That's just my take on, at that point at 64, just going ahead and sticking with the one traditional IRA, rolling your 401k into it, and having it all in one place. Probably gonna be a little simpler for you and less fees overall as well. Okay, came back on just to finish your question. I think I hit everybody else's questions, so we really were here. I just didn't want to end up not saying goodbye and finishing mid-sentence on that one particular question on the 401k. So I think we hit everything tonight. A few things as a reminder too. We're going to have Healthcare Marketplace, and re-enrollment is going to open here in most areas starting in November, first weeks in November. So we're just a few weeks out for you to start thinking about, what do I want to do next year? What are my options next year? This is a great time. And to then think about, do I want to look into an HSA for next year? If you don't have that high deductible plan this year, look at how much you've spent on your insurance this year. Would it be something that would benefit you to choose the high deductible plan, just so that you could take advantage of that health savings account in the end, and possibly lower monthly premiums as well? It's a good one. So I'll leave you with that one. I'm going to go ahead and hop off. I'll be back on tomorrow for all of the drugstore deals that are running this week in CVS and Walgreens. Should be on right about 2 o'clock for that one. So hopefully you can catch me live. If you can't, it's always recorded and you can watch it after the fact. So thanks for joining me tonight, and I will talk to you again soon.